All right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. You getting ready for week 2 here, Frank?
I'm so ready, baby. I'm so ready.
Let's do it, baby. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. Please don't forget, you can follow us on social media on Instagram at Frankly Fantasy Football. It's a great follow. Everywhere podcasts are found, you can hear the audio. And please tune into the video on YouTube. Subscribe and smash that notification bell. It tells you every week we have our episodes coming up. All right, today, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you a little short episode, a little nice little teaser episode. And what we're going to do is we're going to throw out some starts and sits. I hate calling them starts and sits, but that's what they are. They're starts and sits. Frankie's got his top 10 starts. These aren't going to be guys. We're not talking about Nick Chubb and Austin Eckler and CMC. No, we're talking about some guys you're going to be looking at in your RB2 or wide receiver 2 spot or potential flexes. Sits, now, there may be some studs in there that we may want to sit. So stay tuned. Absolutely. We call this little segment of ours, and you guys know it well. It's called Hit It and Quit It, baby. I want you to hit it. I love me some Funkadelic, man.
Ooh,
I do.
So good.
Love me the Funkadelic. Okay. All right, Frank, let's get into our starts here, man, and what we're looking at here. Talk to me about your first start of the week.
And John, these aren't in any particular order. So just for those listening and watching, this isn't like, oh, number 1 is the start of the week. It's not like that. We just have our top 10 starts. And John, the first guy I'm looking at is James Cook versus that of the Las Vegas Raiders. James Cook looked excellent. Yesterday, right? It feels like yesterday, this past week. And he really shined in his opportunity against a very good defense. I think that with his rushing ability, they're going to lean on that a bit more, and his pass catching, right? He ended up having over 4 receptions in that game against the Jets. So, John, I only see them building on a Las Vegas Raiders defense that is nowhere near the caliber of that of the Jets. So I really think James Cook has a prime opportunity to step outside the box, give that of Josh Allen a little comfy, cozy blanket once more, get him back in action. So I really do like James Cook this week.
I think it's a bounce back week for the Bills. They had a really rough go of it with the Jets defense, and as well they should. That's an excellent defense. That is not what they're going to be facing with the Raiders. They're going to be able to figure out more of their identity. And James Cook did look really good, man. I mean, he was
smooth.
Yeah, he was smooth. He was fast. He had juice. I loved everything I saw out of him. Are you worried about him getting kind of game scripted out of games at times?
You know, not yet. And I say that because they did rush him quite a bit as well. So I'm really excited to almost see if they lean on him a bit more than maybe leaning purely on that of the arm and talent of Josh Allen, because we saw that this past week. I mean, 3 picks, and they were ugly. I mean, a lot of what Josh Allen was throwing was ugly. And so I think that they want to reset the offensive flow, and I think that they're going to look to really run the ball a little bit more than maybe what they had against the Jets.
He had 12 rushes for 46 yards.
Yep.
Not bad. I liked it. I liked it a lot. All right. Well, who else we have here, Frankie?
John, number 2 on the start of the week for week 2, Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers in your flex, baby. Fire his ass up, John. I know we mentioned it briefly in the last episode earlier this week, but he brought in 9 of 10 targets. 9 of 10 targets for 78 yards. And here's the kicker. He rushed twice. He rushed the ball 2 times. John, for me, what this is screaming now, again, take it with a grain of salt. We mentioned that in the last episode, right? Because Mark Andrews was not there. He was not playing. That's going to potentially cause more problem. Or it could potentially even be a benefit to that of Zay Flowers, knowing that defenses are going to need a key on that of Mark Andrews, and they might not believe that a rookie could do what he did in back-to-back weeks. But they're playing against Cincinnati, massive divisional game. I think that Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to be out for blood. They're not going to want to go 0-2 in back-to-back divisional games. And so that's why I really think Zay Flowers is a smash play from a flex perspective because of a potential game script.
And he's really the only healthy receiver they have.
Yeah.
Odell was banged up. Rashad Bateman's always banged up, and Mark Andrews didn't play. And even if Mark Andrews comes back, you're still looking at potentially 3 banged up targets with Zay Flowers being the healthy guy running all over the goddamn field.
Yep.
I love it, man. I mean, we were high on him early. I mean, we talked about him in episode 1 in the rookie review, and we both loved him. We loved his situation, and I think he is going to be taking advantage of it. Bengals defense, yeah, it's a pretty good defense, but it's exploitable. And what they do with Zay Flowers, this isn't a guy lined up as the one. He's not the X receiver here. He's all over the field. He's a smaller guy. They do a lot of cool shit with him and shifty things and run the ball with him and jet sweeps and stuff. So really interesting. I really like that play, man. I've got him. I'm starting him in my flex this week over Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love that, man. John, we got another guy on here that I'll tell you what, the fact that he's on here is mind blowing, because this was a guy that when we were doing the mock drafts was off my board, totally off my board. Right. Yeah. But again, it comes back to how they performed, what they looked like, and who the matchup is. I'm talking number 3, John. I love Mike Evans. I love Mike Evans the start of the week, and they're playing against Chicago. We saw what Romeo Doubs did and the rest of the receiving core and the pass catching running backs like Aaron Jones, et cetera, did against Chicago. They torched him. Jordan Love had 3 touchdowns, over 240 yards passing. Now you layer in Baker Mayfield with, let's just call a spade. Mike Evans is a better weapon than that of Romeo Doubs. And maybe not so much of Christian Watson anymore, right? But is right up there still from a 50-50 ball perspective. I could see this getting pretty crazy for a Mike Evans play. So for me, man, I went from being a hater to fire his ass up, man. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, 6 catches, 10 targets, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, he was doing what Mike Evans does. I mean, this is just what he does. 1,000 yards every season for the past 5 seasons, 6 seasons.
I think it's like 9 seasons now.
Yeah, it's something crazy. And you know what, Baker? How about Baker Mayfield? Winning angry runs this week on Good Morning Football. Baker Mayfield. Wow. I mean,
good for him.
Hey, this is actually perfect. I mean, this is exactly the guy that Baker Mayfield needs. He's going to chuck just balls into the end zone. And Mike Evans is going to have that 50-50 ball. He's going to get it a lot. I mean, that's what Baker Mayfield does. Here, oh God, somebody catch this, please. And you got Mike Evans sitting back there. So I love it, man. I really do. Not scared of that Chicago defense. I think that team's a little bit in disarray right now. So I think that they'll be able to exploit it a bit. Yeah, I love it. Great call.
John, number 4, we're looking at Samaje Perine. Start him, fire him up. John, I love the utilization that he had. And again, they played against the Las Vegas Raiders. John, this was a very close 50-50 split here, man.
Really
between
was.
Him and Javonte. I mean, pretty interesting, right? So what we're looking at from Samaje Perine, he averaged over 5 yards a carry in this past week. Week 1, again, we're not trusting week 1, but I kind of trust that a little bit. Over 5 yards a carry. He ended up having, John, he had 8 carries for 41 yards, which equates to 5.1 yards a carry. And then he also had 4 targets and caught all 4 of his targets for that of 37 yards receiving. John, to me, this is an excellent opportunity. It's a Washington defense to where the Cardinals played well, right? I mean, we're talking about James Conner, John, who is obviously the guy for the Cardinals. But when you look at what he did, he had 14 carries for 62 yards against that of the Commanders. Nothing crazy sexy, but what I loved about it was that that's a really solid floor. So for those of you who have a couple high banger type of dudes, maybe you have some high flyers flyers that you're looking to put out there as your receivers or even in your running backs, and you want a little bit more of a floor type of player, that's where I'm going with Samaje Perine. So for me, man, fire his ass up. I love where he sits against this defense.
It seems pretty safe. I mean, it really does. The way they used those two backs, almost identical to Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon when they had
crazy
split.
dude.
I mean, it was almost 45% snap percentage for Samaje Perine. I mean, it really was almost exactly a 50-50 split between those guys. I love it. He was the running back 22 last week. I mean, that's a guy you can play in your flex or your RB2 if you need to do that. So I love it. Good call.
John, we got for our next guy, for number 5, we're going to go with BA. We mentioned it last time. Who's BA? He's badass. You want to know who badass is? It's Brandon Ayuk.
I think you're talking about me for a second there.
That is true. We can talk about it as well, John.
Okay.
Excellent matchup, excellent opportunity. I think that this is going to be crazy with the way CMC is running. Brock Purdy's locked in right now. And again, we're saying this after 1 week. But here's the thing with Brock Purdy. It hasn't necessarily been 1 week. He's done this for 7 straight games, and he has been excellent in 7 straight games. So for me, John, I love Brandon Ayuk. He's kind of on the edge of, do you really say you should start him or do you not? There are certainly people out there that do not believe him, do not believe in him, that he's still a guy that, maybe you're picking, somebody else over him at this point in time from a flex perspective. For me, man, I'm locking it in. Feel really fucking good about it too, guys. Brandon Ayuk, lock him in as a start.
Until you see otherwise, he's got to be in your lineup. I loved him before last week, and he went nuts. So, yeah, I mean, he's a flex automatic start. He's a wide receiver 2 automatic start in my mind. He really, really is. Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about it in the last episode. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 on this team. Debo's going to kind of go back to kind of being that gadget player, being that, he's a solid receiver for sure. But I think Brandon Ayuk is a pure receiver, and I think that's starting to show right now. Who else you got, Frank?
John, we're going to fire up Tyler Algier as start number 6 here. This is definitely a little bit more risky, guys. This is not one that's for the faint of heart, but I love it. They are walking in, going and playing a good Green Bay team. So that's why it's a little bit interesting. But here's the deal. What we saw from week 1, we saw Tyler Algier over 70 yards rushing, 2 tutties, and was the perfect complement to Bijan Robinson. It is a completely different change of pace. Bijan is out there sometimes in tandem with Algier. You're obviously firing up Bijan Robinson. But John, what we saw from Khalil Herbert, what we saw from Roschon Johnson, right? They didn't have super great weeks, but the difference is that, in my personal opinion, Tyler Algier is better than the entirety of the backfield there in that of Chicago. And what we're looking for here is an offset from Bijan. So again, this is definitely a more risky play. However, if you're looking at this compared to maybe that of an Alexander Madison, maybe you're thinking twice. This compared to maybe a few others, like if you have the LA backfield, you might be thinking twice. These are the guys that I might be plugging in over that, Tyler Algier is the guy I might be plugging in over some of these other decisions, John.
Yeah, I'm playing him over Cam Akers, just like you said.
Cam Akers for sure.
I'm playing him over Alexander Madison. I am. I'd rather play Tyler Algier playing at home against Green Bay in good weather in a dome. Than Alexander Madison at Philly. I would. Based on what we've seen, I don't think we're going to see anything different. It was, these guys were on the field together a lot as well, which was really cool. 56% snap for Algier, 65 for Bijan. So, it was great. Yeah. 15 rushes, 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Running back 4. You can't sit the running back 4. The very next week, you got to run it back. You find a way to get him in your lineup. I'm telling you, it's going to pay off. Or great trade target. Great guy that you can trade for, but a great guy you can trade if you have him. If you've got him, maybe you're backing up Bijan. Maybe you just did it because we like taking the other people's handcuffs with Algier, with Elijah Mitchell, those kind of guys. If you've got Tyler Algier, he can be starting on a team. You got a guy who lost J.K. Dobbins and didn't draft very well.
Love that.
Trade Tyler Algier to him. Or if you've got another piece that you're questionable about, maybe you have a Cam Akers as well. Trade Cam Akers to that owner keep Tyler Algier, start him, and get another receiver piece from him. So there's a lot of things you can do. He's one of those guys, I think, that these first couple of weeks of the year, there's going to be a lot of action with him, whether it's trades or, put him in your lineup. But I love it, man. I think you can fire him up as well.
John, Falcons ran the ball 26 times. 26 times. Give that boy half. Actually, he had more than half, which is pretty incredible. That is why I like Tyler Algier. When talent meets opportunity, right?
Exactly. And I'm so glad they kept the opportunity with him because he was so good.
I too.
And they drafted Bijan. I went, why? What are you doing? You've got a very good running back here. Now I see why. They look really smart doing it.
They totally do, man. They absolutely do. John, this brings me to number 7, baby. Brings me to number 7. We're looking at Courtland Sutton, a guy that you were probably looking at in your drafts and the mock drafts towards the end of the entire draft. And it's going to pan out for you, baby. Guys, Courtland Sutton last week had 11.2 points in that of half PPR. He caught all 5 targets for 32 yards and already has himself a tutty, which is good to see. He's now going up against that of Washington defense. Guys, this is a very, very good play. Washington's cornerbacks, as well as their secondary, is nowhere where they should be. And so for me, man, this has like serious opportunity written all over it, especially with Russell Wilson getting more comfortable. You're starting to see some really exciting things in this Denver offense. We already mentioned Samaje Perine. We already talked about Javonte Williams a tad. Guys, this is just another piece here. And with Dulcich hurt, Jerry Jeudy's still hurt, right? This is just creating opportunity for Courtland Sutton. And I think he's going to seize the day.
I agree 100%. He was a great pick at the end of the draft. He looked good. I mean, he looked like a good receiver. He had a nice toe tap touchdown in the back of the end zone. He did. Yeah. And I think he's got the confidence of Russell Wilson too. So especially as long as Jerry Jeudy's out, he's a slam dunk play if you've got him. No question.
Love it, man. John, number 8. Guys, we're talking starts here. Listen up. Number 8, DK Metcalf. Whoa. Now we might.
My boy band, baby.
Yeah, you gotta have one of them in there, right, John?
Yeah.
I love this. I love this play because DK Metcalf had a pretty damn good week. I wouldn't say anything spectacular, nothing crazy, but also nowhere near a goose egg. John, he ended up having 47 yards on 3 catches and a touchdown, right? So they are absolutely targeting this dude in the red zone. And here's the thing. They're playing the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are I'm going to say it, they're a fucking good team. And I believe in that. I mean, when Dan Campbell's over here drinking ostrich eggs and all this other crazy shit, talking about prehistoric animals, yeah, dude, I'm buying in. That's crazy. And for those of you listening or don't know what I'm talking about, swear to God, Google it. It's nuts. Or look at a tweet, look at a Twitter, whatever it may be. It is seriously crazy. He went in and started talking.
I'm going to read it right now. We're going to do this.
Please.
Yeah, we're going to. I just pulled it up because I sent it to you on Instagram, so that's why I want to read it out. This is a literal quote from Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions. Love this guy. I start the day with 11 raw ostrich eggs. The ostrich is a living velociraptor, and my body runs better with prehistoric alpha predator protein. That's just science. Then I knock out a quick workout. All glamour muscles. This isn't for function. This isn't for intimidation. This is for intimidation. When my biceps are blazing and my body is hopped up on dino protein, I make sweet love to Mrs. Campbell with a photo of the opposite team's coach taped on the bedstand and Steven Seagal movies playing on full blast. My theory behind this is if I can finish while looking at you, I can beat you. Again, science.
Legend. Legend. That is I want that tattooed on me somewhere.
I want to play for this coach so bad.
So bad.
By the way, ostrich eggs, not easy to find. I went to go find them. I was going to do it exactly the same way. I was going to have an ostrich omelet. And
there you go. I went to Giant Eagle and they weren't there. So Dan Campbell, where the fuck are you getting prehistoric ostrich eggs? Okay. Can you help me out here, man? I'm just trying to locate.
The fact that he says he puts the picture of the opposing head coach next to his bed, and if he can finish while banging his wife by looking at him, he can beat him. I mean, it's
brilliant.
I'm sure Mrs. Campbell loves that. My God, big old picture of Andy Reid up on the thing. You got the walrus and like Bill Belichick on
especially Andy Reid. Wow, that's a spectacle.
Holding the old Waffle House menu, Jesus Christ.
So bring it full circle.
Yes,
Detroit,
go back. I digress.
So Detroit is going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. We saw what they did against Kansas City. I think that the Seattle Seahawks are going to need to keep pace. That is why I think DK could be a very, very good play this week, John.
The Seahawks played like shit. Geno Smith
totally played like shit.
Terrible. Now, the only way this could backfire is if Geno Smith is a fraud. If last year was a fluke. Again, week 1 is a liar. We're going to toss it out. We're going to say, let's let week 2 happen. Let's let them get their shit together. But yeah, they look terrible. But DK looks good. And I do think they will make the adjustments. And DK is definitely the number 1 target there, man. No question about it.
Definitely. So, John, then brings us to number 9, Nico Collins. Yes, you're right. I am actually saying start Nico Collins. Here's the reason, guys. Nico Collins balled out last week and very quietly. They played against the Ravens. Ravens have a very good defense, right? And they needed to keep pace. The game script was positive. I see this being very similar, guys. I definitely do, especially in divisional game, right? Nico Collins last week, he had caught 6 of 11 targets for 80 yards. Right against that of the Ravens. They are now playing the Colts. I think that this could be a very, very interesting play. Definitely more of a deeper pool than that of a Zay Flowers, more than a Mike Evans, more than that of a BA and Brandon Ayuk, badass over there in San Francisco. Definitely more risky, but I really like him. If he's on your team and you're really sitting there and you're like, man, do I start him? Do I start Mostert? Do I start him or do I start X, Y, and Z who's playing Dallas Cowboys? Because I'm not starting a damn soul playing the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I probably will because, it is what it is. But you get what picking up what I'm putting down. So, John, I really do like Nico Collins this week.
Yeah, he's the clear alpha on the team. I mean, he's by far the best receiver on that team. I don't even think it's very close. They struggled on offense. CJ Stroud really, really struggled.
Yeah.
This team still, it's going to take a while, and this team's going to have negative game scripts very often, which plays well for Nico Collins. You remember the old days of Houston with D-Hop and Brandon Cooks, and it's like, well, the team sucks, but Brandon Cooks just keeps putting together good games and getting tons of targets. Nico Collins seemed to replace him in that. 11 targets. I don't care what team it is. Any team with 11 targets, I'm going to take that player and start him. Yeah, I like it, man. It's a deep pool, and I like it.
Deep pool. Super deep pool. Guys, so is number 10 here. I'm locking in David Montgomery over here, right? David Montgomery, who is the running back for the Detroit Lions. They are playing the Seattle Seahawks. Here's why. David Montgomery, very, very, very good job against the Chiefs. 21 carries, over 70 yards, and a touchdown. But that is not just why I like him this week. This week, it is based on the matchup. They are playing Seattle Seahawks. And listen to what the Kyren Williams, not even Cam Akers, Kyren Williams did against Seattle Seahawks. And, you don't know who that is? Let me tell you. It's the backup running back for the Rams. Okay. He ended up having 15 carries for 52 yards and 2 touchdowns. Cam Akers saw 22 carries. So between the two of them, almost 30 carries, and Kyren Williams dominated when he had the ball. I am smashing the table on this play, with David Montgomery. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get much more workload, in my opinion, than what he saw last week. So I want to be very crystal clear. I do not expect another 21 carries unless game script abides by that. But, John, I love this play. I think he has a lot of opportunity.
A lot of red zone opportunity, I think, in this game. Yeah, I mean, Seattle's defense may even be worse than Kansas City's defense. So I think you're going to see David Montgomery that's going to be inside the 10-yard line quite often. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, that's a ballsy pick too. RB2, you're saying? You can put
RB2. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, John. I'm going to do it. I'm going to play him. RB2.
All right. I like it. Good luck to you there. All right. Who do we not like this week? Who are we sitting down, Frankie?
John, there's definitely 2 backfields that come to mind. And I was only going to say one, but I'm going to lump in 2. I have to do it. And this is going to be for one sit. LA Rams backfield in its entirety against the San Francisco 49ers. Don't do it. it's going to be awful. San Francisco absolutely embarrassed the Steelers to the nth degree. They basically gave Najee no breathing room and Jaylen Warren nothing. So for me, this is a hard no, look elsewhere. Absolutely.
You just talked up Kyron Williams and Cam Akers. They had 3 touchdowns and they ran the ball 30 some times. You're saying it's not going to work against San Francisco.
I'm saying it's not even going to come close. I really, really believe that. John, the other ones, we talked about it. I'm just going to shoot from the hip here, buddy. It's the Eagles across the board. The reason being, guys, is you don't know. Nobody knows. And if you're looking at having DeAndre Swift as your RB2, look elsewhere. If you have to play Kenneth Gainwell in your flex, look elsewhere. There are other plays. Right now, this is a 3 or 4 headed monster. Rashad Penny, we mentioned on the last episode, guys, earlier this week, that he was a healthy scratch. They haven't even ran him yet. And then you have DeAndre Swift, who barely saw the field, and Boston Scott is scoring a touchdown. Guarantee none of you have Boston Scott on your team. Bet $100 on it. So, like, what I'm saying is we need to really, really wait and see, especially against, a Thursday night opponent in the Minnesota Vikings. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. Let's pump the brakes. I would sit that entirety of that backfield as well.
And Kenneth Gainwell's a little banged up right now, too. He's questionable for this week. So they could activate Rashad Penny, and that just creates more problems for us because we don't know, because we didn't see them even use. He was a healthy scratch. So we don't know. I'm with you on that, man. I mean, I haven't been a big DeAndre Swift fan ever, actually. But when they brought him into Philly, I just didn't love it. And we're just going to have to see more. There's no chance I could start DeAndre Swift with what we've seen so far. There's just no chance.
Nope.
And Rashad Penny, even worse. I mean, you can't, if you're desperate, I guess you might have to put him out there if you have nobody else, but absolutely not. Not until you see how they're going to actually utilize these guys. Yeah, agreed, man.
John, number 2 sit for week 2. This is gonna piss some people off, but I'm gonna go for it.
Good.
Scary Terry. Scary fucking Terry is not scary this week. Okay.
Terry McLaurin, wide receiver for the Washington Manders.
That's right, man. They're playing the Denver, Colorado Broncos. Denver, Colorado Broncos. Okay. Here's the deal. When we were looking at what Scary Terry was doing, he had 2 catches for 31 yards. Here's why I don't like him. Denver's defense is pretty damn good. Number 1. Number 2, Jahan Dotson. He caught 5 passes on 7 targets for 40 yards. I think maybe the tide is slowly turning now to Jahan Dotson. John, you mentioned it earlier in the preseason this year that you could end up seeing this happening. I was on the opposite end. I was like, I don't really know, man. We got to really see this play out. I think it actually could end up happening and it could play out. I think that Scary Terry is going to draw a lot of the top coverage. I think that's going to leave open Jahan Dotson. I just think that Scary Terry is a bit scary of a play for that of week 2.
Yeah, and it's not that Jahan Dotson's a better receiver than Terry McLaurin either. McLaurin's a great receiver. He's just been kind of buried in Washington for shit quarterback play. Sam Howell looked pretty good. He wasn't great, but he was okay.
Yeah, serviceable for sure.
He certainly favors Jahan Dotson. I think that's the difference. Sometimes guys just have better chemistry than other guys, and that we could see the turning of the tide there. I agree with you. Yeah, I don't like starting Terry McLaurin right now either, man.
Gotta wait and see, man. Guys, number 3. This one broke my soul a little bit. This one hurt because he's one of my champions.
Nick Chubb? Don't start Nick Chubb?
Yeah, right. God, you start him even if he's not playing on a bye week. You start him. Okay, guys, I'm talking George Pickens. This is tough. And I say it because Deontay Johnson is hurt. Right. We talked about it. Could this be benefiting or could George Pickens be benefiting from this, or could he be hindered from this because he's going to draw even more coverage? Here's why I don't like him. Look at what the Browns defensive backs did to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Absolutely blanketed him to the point to where Mike Tomlin called them out a couple days ago and said that the kudos needs to go to the defensive backs, specifically Emerson, Newsome, and Ward. They're the reason for how badly the Browns beat the Bengals, and I couldn't agree more. They were blanketing him. So for me, man, I think that Kenny Pickett is going to have his hands full with this defensive line. I also think that the way these defensive backs are healthy and they're playing at this point in time, this could mean serious consequences for that of George Pickens. Here was his line this past week against that of San Fran, which is an excellent team, excellent defense. He had 7 targets, 5 catches for 37 yards, right? Great target share, but not a lot there. You look at the same thing with T. Higgins we mentioned earlier this week, 0 for 8, right? Jamar Chase not living up to his potential. So for me, man, I think that there's a better matchup. 9 times out of 10, I'm firing up George Pickens. For me, this is a week that I don't think I'm going to. And it's not just because I'm wearing Brownie the Elf on my hat. It's because truly this defense is something I think to be weary of.
Yeah, they've got serious momentum. They're playing on Monday night at their rivals on the road. These guys are going to be fired up, man. Yeah. And you're right. Normally, I love George Pickens. I've got the Pickett stack, and it absolutely killed me this week. In a 2-quarterback league, he's my second quarterback. Absolutely destroyed me. In fact, this is funny, Frankie. Right before Sunday's games, because I had that stack, I was like, man, I don't like Pickett here. I could feel better about having Pickett as my QB2 if I could stack it. I traded. It's gonna make you sick. And I have a good team. I had depth. That's why I could do it. I traded Brandon Ayuk straight up for George Pickens. And I'm crying. And I lost to you, by the way.
Damn right you did.
Yeah, and I would have beat you with 30 points out of Brandon Ayuk. But yeah, George Pickens, they're not going to have time to throw the ball down the field. And that's where George Pickens really eats. Deontay Johnson's the middle of the field kind of guy, the possession guy. Pat Freiermuth, who's also banged up. We're not sure if he's going to play. He's the middle of the field guy. They're going to ask George Pickens to do a lot, and I don't think he's ready for that responsibility yet. We're not talking about Justin Jefferson here. We're talking about a guy who's yet to emerge, going to emerge. I just don't think it's going to be this week. It's not because I'm a homer. It's because I saw what the hell happened out there with probably the best passing attack in the NFL.
That was crazy. It was crazy. That's right up there with the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. No question about it. John, that actually brings me to number 4. And I'm going to stay in the Steelers realm. And guys, for Pittsburgh, I swear I'm not actually targeting the Pittsburgh fans. I'm not even joking. This is literally just because of the matchup. It's Najee Harris. This one also probably stings because you know he's your RB2, maybe your RB1. Guys, this is not the matchup. And unfortunately, you might need to start him. Here's why. Last week against that of the 49ers, who are in the top 3, let's say, from a defensive perspective, he only ran the ball 6 times. And he only had 31 yards and he only caught 2 passes. Like, guys, that is not good whatsoever from a utilization perspective at all. Zilch. Now you flash forward to the Cleveland Browns. Well, let's see what Joe Mixon actually did with the Cleveland Browns. I can tell you, Joe Mixon ended up not doing great either. He ended up ran the ball 13 times for 56 yards. You extrapolate that from what Najee did actually over, Najee outperformed that of what Joe Mixon did, right? And so what I'm saying is this is a very, very sketchy start because not only are you walking Najee out for your potential RB1, John, or your RB2, but also you have to potentially bank on him now as the last player that you might be playing for this week, knowing that it's Monday night. For me, I'm not willing to put all my eggs, or at least the eggs that I have from a running back perspective or a flex or an RB2, whatever it is, into that of Najee Harris, knowing what the Cleveland Browns did to that of Joe Mixon and to even his backups. I mean, it was really bad. And so for me, man, it's tough to say, but I'm actually going to sit Najee Harris this week.
We talked about that coming into the season. We talked of Jaylen Warren a lot. Week 1 was not what I expected to see out of that, though. That was very early. It's damn close to a 50-50 split. between the two in week 1. That's interesting. I thought it was going to take a little bit longer than that. So that worries me as it is. When Najee's value is all about massive volume. Yep. He's a volume guy. He's not the guy who's going to break out the 50-yard touchdown. That's just not who he is. He's a volume guy, just hitting the line, and then getting tons and tons of targets. That's where Najee always had his value. Najee had 2 targets. He had 2 targets. Jaylen Warren had 6 targets. This could be the beginning of a massive shift that's happening a lot faster than I expected it to. So yeah, I agree. When you're playing against tough defenses, Najee Harris is he's going to be a guy you're going to struggle with all year long. I would make plans to know when you can start and sit Najee Harris. I don't think it's an every week thing, and especially this week.
And John, that's a good point, because guys, right now we're talking, they just went through the 49ers. They're going to the Browns, and I get it. You're not a Browns fan. You're probably like, dude, you're way too hyping it up. I'm telling you, this is the best Browns defense that we've seen in years. And that's just not me. That's me being completely unbiased in saying that. But here's where I would start them, John. Week 3 against Vegas, week 4 against Houston. They finally break out of this craziness, and then they go to Baltimore. Then they have a bye week, and then they have the Rams, the Jags, Tennessee, all of which are better options at that point in time. It's just really difficult going from getting your ass beat from the 49ers to then going into a defensive front that just dominated the Bengals and looked unbelievable. That is the difference. That is why we're saying sit them at this point in time.
Yeah, and don't get comfortable. Just because you drafted a guy in a certain spot doesn't mean you have to play that guy. The draft is over, guys. ADP doesn't mean shit anymore.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it's over. I don't care if you drafted him as your RB2 or your RB1, if you went 0 RB strategy or something like that. It doesn't matter. It's all about matchups. You can play backups. You can play guys like Kyron Williams. You can play. There's a lot of options.
Tyler Algier.
Look at the matchups. So there are weeks you can play Najee. There are also weeks we're suggesting you probably don't want to play Najee. So look at that stuff. That's very important.
John, the last sit here that we have, number 5, is another tough one. Another fucking tough one. It is Drake London. Drake London was a sweetheart darling, John, especially of yours. You were pretty high on Drake London this whole offseason, man.
Yeah, I still am. I'm still high on his talent. I'm terrified about Desmond Ridder. I really am. I'm not a big fan of his. I just thought the target share alone would be enough, even on a questionable passing offense. But 1 target last week, man.
1 target, no catches.
1 target, 0 catches.
Points.
Who the hell were they throwing the ball to?
I don't think they really were very much.
No, they certainly weren't. They may not. I think it's going to be the Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson show for quite a while. I think he'll sneak in some good games, but yeah, I mean, from what we saw, I can't put him out there. I'm sitting him myself. I'm definitely starting someone else instead of Drake London.
John, I can tell you how many passes Desmond Ridder threw. He completed 15 of 18, so pretty high completion percentage for 115 yards and a touchdown, which means that he's throwing the ball to check down Charlie to Bijan Robinson. He's throwing the ball very short, very quick, right? Which is not Drake London's motto, right? That's not what he does. He is a much more athletic, younger version of Mike Evans, right? That is who he is. So he needs that high point ball. So in addition to this, John, they're playing Green Bay. Green Bay is a good team. We saw what Green Bay did with Jair Alexander against that DJ Moore, right? So that is already concerning. You know that's who's going to be lining up across from him. So for me, man, matchup is pretty tough. And then on top of it, what Jair Alexander already did to DJ Moore, and then you layer in the fact that they threw 18 times and he only had 115 yards. That's pretty sketchy in terms of Desmond Ridder. So for me, that is why I'm laying low on Drake London this week and waiting to see what happens.
So Desmond Ridder threw the ball 18 times.
18 times, completed 15 passes.
Bijan and Tyler Algier had 11 of those targets.
So literally check down Charlie. Actually check down Charlie. 7 other targets were elsewhere. How many did Pitts have? I'm curious. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, John, but I actually got it right here. He ended up having 2 receptions on 3 targets. So he had 3 targets. That brings him to 14. There were 4 other targets. One of those were Drake London. That leaves 3 other elsewhere. That's not good.
No,
that's not good.
It's just math. It's math that cannot work. He would have to be unbelievably efficient or sneak in a touchdown somewhere. It's just nothing to go. There's not enough to go around. You're just going to have to sit him until you see more passing volume out of this team. No question about it.
Tyreek Hill had 100 yards in the first quarter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. I mean, he had more yards receiving than Desmond Ridder had the entire time passing. I mean,
he doubled. He almost doubled. He had 100 more yards.
Literally
rushing.
almost double.
Yeah.
literally almost doubled Tyreek Hill's receiving yards. That's crazy.
Unbelievable. All right, great. There's our starts and sits for the week. Really nice job, Frankie. Definitely took some risks there, man. I mean, there's some guys that and people are going to go, screw you, man. I'm definitely starting this guy. I don't care what Frankie says. Trust me, you should listen to Frankie on this one. All right. All right. Thank you so much for listening and for watching, everyone. Don't forget, follow us on Instagram at Frankly Fantasy Football. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and smash the notification button. And the audio, if you're watching us, please listen on audio as well, or at least subscribe to us. We just like the subscribers. Yeah. That's what we really need. It's just the subscribers, you know? Everywhere podcasts are found, you can find us everywhere. Thank you so much. Frankie, any parting words? I love you, brother.
I love you, man. Guys, have fun. Week 2 is upon us, and continue to be dialed in, baby.
Let's do it, baby. May the fantasy gods smile upon you.